$5.37. Three diamonds.
What are we doing here?
Oh, shh. He's training for Stop Thief.
Doritos. Cool Ranch. Stop Thief is a deduction-style game where a bunch of private detectives are running around the mean streets of wherever this is in an attempt to capture a bunch of thieves that are breaking and entering and, generally speaking, making a nuisance of themselves. Like every game from Restoration Games, Stop Thief is an updated re-release of a classic from long ago. Admittedly, we've never played the original, so nostalgia is not a factor in our review. It's just something to keep in mind. What's interesting about this game is, in this updated release, they make use of an app that not only provides awesome ambience from the menu, but also provides the only clues you're going to get as to where the thief is. Because as the thief moves around the board, they don't have a piece for you to track. No, instead you're going to be listening for clues, like the smash of broken glass when they go through a window, footsteps for when they move through a room, or the slamming of a door as they pass through that. Hopefully, if you can manage to track where they are, deduce the direction they might have gone, and if you can get there faster than your fellow detectives, you can grab the perp, collect the reward, and get one step closer to retirement. If not, well, there's always the next crime. Let's take a look at how it works. The crime has been committed. The app tells us which of the 4 quadrants of the board the thief is in, and then we get our first clue. Essentially, that first clue, the door opening, tells us that for the quadrant where the thief is, they're standing on one of the door spaces, and that narrows down where they might be. Players will get to play movement cards from their hand. Each player gets a unique hand of movement cards, not just unique values, but each PI has a different sort of suite of special abilities. For example, the green character, Pepper Gonzalez, is particularly good at snagging cash from other PIs as she goes by. When you start your turn, everybody at the table will get another auditory clue, alarm. So they went from a door to an alarm space. And with that, you're going to start to be able to narrow down where on the board they might be. But remember, this is a race. Every player is trying to get to that spot first and then make an arrest. Now, what's interesting further is that the thief that you're going after may have a special when captured ability, or they might have a special ability that triggers while they're at large. And so there's this mixture of the thief's ability, your player's ability, and the way the app keeps you moving around that makes the game very interesting. Once you think you're close enough, you can attempt an arrest. You'll punch in the numerical value of the spot where you think the thief is, and if you're correct, congratulations, you get some cash. And if not, well, oh well. Stop Thief is a really successful re-implementation of a classic, although, as I said, never played the original, so I can't speak to what that game felt like. What I do know is that in the original version of the game there were dice, and they have removed the dice from the game for this version. They've replaced them with these player-specific hands of cards, and that means that there's a lot of strategy really quick, because you have your hand of cards at the beginning of the game, and every time you spend one, it's discarded until you spend a turn sort of picking up your hand. So there's this always this sort of like, how tight in the race am I staying? How are you managing the cards? The other thing, of course, is that each character has a slightly different set of abilities. One is really good at moving huge distances. One, as I said, is good at sort of grabbing money from other players. And so by switching that up, you can get some variety in your experience. The other thing that gives you a lot of variety is the app gives you multiple difficulty settings. And that is achieved by basically changing the way the thieves behave. Maybe they'll never take the subway on a standard difficulty level, but as you get a higher difficulty level, there's the chance that they might, or they always will, and so they'll make much bigger moves. They'll never break a window. They'll always break a window, that sort of thing. And so by tuning the logic up and down, and by switching around your characters, you actually get a lot of variety out of that same sort of core deductive gameplay. Another thing that I think is really cool is that the app allows them to expand the rules of the game on the fly. There's now already a co-op variant that you can play using the app, and there's more coming, like a solo mode and things like that. What's interesting for me is that I, generally speaking, don't really like deduction games, but I like this one because the clues are very sort of right in front of you. Well, they're in your ear, but it's not about bluffing and deduction. It's about okay, so that's a sound from this quadrant. That could be one of these 5 spaces. Oh, another sound. That narrows it down to one of these 3 spaces. Can I get there in time? Now, can you narrow it down to a 50-50? Like, because that's as close as you're pretty much ever going to get. And so it's all about making your best guess given the information. There are also these sort of like private tips that under certain circumstances when you play a card you might get, and that'll give you a space to work towards. But unless you're super close, sometimes it's a little hard to act on that private tip, and if you start charging off in a direction, you're giving information to the other players too. And so there's this great sort of push and pull. I like the race element of it because you're always just trying to get to the thief and arrest them before your fellow players can, unless you're playing the co-op variant. And so the other players become the timer, and I like that because it makes it a little more interesting than if it was strictly like in a set number of turns the thief would get away and you had to figure it out. And then, of course, there's just the presentation. I think the board looks great. I like the art for the characters. It feels pretty... It feels a little abstracty, but it's not. It's actually, it feels a little thematic when you're like chasing down somebody and you heard footstep, door. They must be in one of these 2 spaces, and then everybody just sort of charges to that. And again, because the clues are all auditory, everybody at the table gets to hear them. Everybody at the table sort of looks and they make their deductions and makes their best guesses. Overall, Stop Thief is a fantastic take on this very interesting deductive style gameplay. We think that Restoration did, unsurprisingly, a really phenomenal job. They almost... we've never played one of their games who weren't impressed with the delivery of their product. It's always high quality. The app is nice, and overall, we just think that this is a really cool game for a niche that we didn't know we were missing, and we've really enjoyed our time with it, and we think it's totally worth you checking out too, especially if you've got any sort of a nostalgic connection with the original, which, as I say, wasn't something that we'd ever played, but I bet it would be cool if it had been. Might be worth checking out. Anyway, this is Stop Thief. I'm Andrew from Gameosity. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next game. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more of our full-length reviews, go ahead and click over here somewhere. If you want to see some of our fast reviews, Game in a Minute, why don't you click on that over there somewhere. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, if you could just click on my face and untie this, I'd really appreciate it. I kind of have no idea where anything is. I was bluffing with all that listening stuff.